All right, guys, welcome back to ZT Fully Loaded. It is Thursday, September 14th. Football is upon us, 5 days straight of football. We have NFL kicking off tonight with the Eagles and Vikings, and of course, we have a couple college football games. As you can see, I have one going on in the background with Memphis starting up in a bit. I apologize for getting the week 2 recap out a little bit late this week. It was a long week. It was a long Sunday after the Texas win. At the end of the day, I just wanted to recap week 2 before we jump into week 3, guys. Okay, so let's do a recap of week 2. We'll go over this PowerPoint slide of our picks from last week, our updates on our Power 5 conference winners, or the futures that we had at the beginning of the year, the futures that we had for Heisman at the beginning of the year, the futures for favorite season total, and then of course our playoff prediction futures as well. All right, guys. So we'll talk about those, and then we'll jump into the winners and losers of week 2, and then really jump into what everybody's here for, the preview of week number 3, guys. Okay. Of course, you guys can skip through the video if you guys would like. If you guys would like to just get to week 3, but stay for the content of week 2. It might help you out on your bets for week 3. So let's jump right into it, guys. Week 2, we had 5 get bets. We hit 4 out of the 5. I don't know why I trusted UTEP, guys. I hated myself at the beginning for it. I didn't like many games on the slate. I just thought Northwestern was in a bad place, and I chose UTEP, and I will never do it again. But starting off with Nebraska and Colorado, Colorado smashes Nebraska at the beginning of the game. I was like, man, I was right. They might both be mediocre. And then Colorado came out and they said that Nebraska made it personal. It seems like that's going to be a trend for Colorado all year. Somebody made it personal some way, somehow, and they just take offense to something that somebody says. And that's exactly what took place there. Second half, they came out and just absolutely stomped Nebraska. Colorado clears easy, -3. UTEP again, just an absolute failure. We'll never bet them again in my life. They lose. Notre Dame at NC State. Notre Dame clears easy. There was a huge rain delay on this one with lightning, problems in the stadium, which we'll recap in the winners and losers. But Notre Dame still comes out on top with a big fourth quarter for their defense, coming up with some turnovers, and then the running game, of course, just takes over, and Sam Hartman plays flawless football. UCF at Boise State. I told you guys -3.5 was a little bit tricky for me. I was going back and forth. I took UCF money line instead. UCF wins with I want to say it was a walk-off field goal. If not, it was like a last-minute field goal. They don't cover -3.5, but they hit our money line for us. And then Texas at Alabama, the biggest game of the weekend. I'm still hyped about how Texas looked, how Quinn Ewers looked, how our defense and our pass rush looked. It was beautiful to see. +7 was easy. +3 was easy. Money line was easy. Texas wins by 10. Texas back in the top 4 in the AP poll. It was beautiful to see. Super excited. Most excited I've been for a Texas team. I told you guys at the beginning of the year, and excited to see this come to fruition, guys. So that was our recap. Texas +7 finishes off at 4-1 on week 2 picks. Going over our Power 5 conference winners, guys, and actually we'll cover these in the week 3 picks. How about that? So we can save the time and jump into our week 3 picks. So I'll give you the update on all of these records and where they stand in the week 3 picks towards the end of the video. So with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and look over our winners and losers of the week, guys. Winners. I think you guys can guess where I'm going to start off here for winners, guys. And I'm actually going to increase the screen a little bit so I can also see the reflection, see the game. But winners of week 2, Texas. Hello, playoff picture. Texas, we are back. Again, it was a beautiful game, guys. I have not seen Quinn throw a deep ball like that ever. It was something that we've been waiting for, to be quite honest, and we finally got it. Connections with Xavier Worthy, connections with Mitchell, Jatavion Sanders running wild in the middle of the field, pounding the ball down the throat of the Alabama defense when needed to run out the clock. It was just a beautiful all-around game on the offense and the defense. Nothing to be shy about there. The pass rush was amazing. Got after the quarterback, held Milroe in the pocket as much as possible. There was some tackling issues at points in the game, but when we needed to stop, when we needed to close the door, it was amazing. Seeing Anthony Hill, our freshman, he's going to be a problem for the next 3 years. It was just awesome, guys. All-around performance, dominating every aspect of the game. I don't think there was any fluke, any question of a fluke. In this case, it was Texas all the way. Texas clears that +7. Texas wins, and we are now 2-0, and we are now in the playoff picture. Now, jumping into winners of week 2, again, the Pac-12. Pac-12 seems stout, and again, it sucks because they're breaking up this year. I bet you they all wish that they would have had these types of performances before these contract negotiations with television for TV rights. Because Utah and Oregon traveling to beat the Big 12 teams. Utah again struggling with their quarterback. I'm glad they finally brought in their third string. Seeing his performance right before half and driving down the field, I don't know why they don't start with him at half. They don't. They may get a lot closer than what they had to. They finally bring him in. He leads them on the last possession touchdown drive, and then they get the turnover as well to help us cover the spread. It was beautiful to see, and they beat Baylor at Baylor to drop them to 0-2, and then Oregon travels to that little place that they call Lubbock with nothing else to do other than a football stadium and kicking rocks. And Oregon beats Texas Tech as well, and they cover because of another late turnover. Beautiful, beautiful to see. Loved every second of it. Utah and Oregon on top of Big 12 schools. And then, of course, Colorado, we talked about that in our recap. They came out slow, and then they just took things personal yet again. And they took care of business in the second half against Nebraska. And it was just a big home game for them, man. It was rocking. Those ticket prices did not dip. And now they have College Game Day on their campus against Colorado State. That's the type of hype that Prime Time is bringing to their campus. I apologize. It's exciting to see here that I'm in Denver. I'm actually going to try to go out there with my brother tomorrow to watch First Take in the Pat McAfee show. So just excited. The buzz that's going around Colorado, buzz that's going around Denver. It's good for it. Still not completely sold on them, but at the end of the day, it's good to see them having success, especially after so many down years. So shout out to Primetime, shout out to the Colorado Buffs, and hopefully get to see some quite good entertainment with the Pat McAfee show as well as First Take and all the other ESPN shows that are here this weekend. Hello to Miami, to the Hello Top 25. We'll cover this more in the losers of the week, but Miami takes down A&M and what shocked a lot of people of a shootout. It was a barn burner, but Miami takes down A&M. A&M, we'll talk a bit about you guys in the losers again, but Miami, shout out to you guys. Welcome to the Top 25. And then overs are back. If you guys remember our recap of week 1, overs suffered, guys, and it was a lot because of that running clock now. No more stopping on first downs. But overs in week 2 hit 62% of the time. So that's quite a margin there. That's a good profit if you were betting overs on every single game that had an over under for their game. So overs are back. And then Rice, shout out to you guys beating Houston and beating them convincingly. It was nothing short of a surprise there, nothing of a fluke there. I think Rice is starting to show that they're a better team than many project. And that's just a bigger boost to Texas' resume, to be completely honest. And maybe that's a reason that they end up in the 4 seed instead of on the 5 or 6 line behind USC, for that matter. And that's already starting to show through because of Rice. So shout out to you guys, Rice. Pac-12 after dark action. Man, I loved watching Oregon State's game. I loved watching California and Alabama's game. It's just nice to have that Pac-12 back in action. I was hyped after the Texas win. I couldn't fall asleep. I was with my boy AJ. We were just talking, drinking, and I was glad I had some football to watch. So shout out to you guys. Pac-12 after dark. I'm going to miss it. Definitely when Pac-12 goes away, but still going to enjoy it while we have it. And they have some pretty good teams again in the Pac-12, so it's some enjoyable games to watch. And then winners of the week 2, we're going to end it with the week 4 schedule. And it's like, why week 4? Well, guys, we're going to talk about this. Week 3 slate is trash. I don't like it. It is very big spreads, very poor matchups. That's probably why Colorado State end up with College Game Day. But yeah, it's going to be a struggle in week 3. But week 4, what do we have to look forward to? UCLA, Utah, top 25 matchup, Pac-12. Oregon State, Washington State. Washington State goes and beats Wisconsin, who was number 19, and beat them convincingly. So yeah, another top 25 matchup. Oregon and Colorado, again, top 25 matchup. And maybe what's going to be determining the Pac-12, who knows, right? Who knows now down the line. Notre Dame, Ohio State. I've been telling you guys this in the beginning of the year. Excited for this game. Ohio State, still not convinced on them. I think Sam Hartman might be able to take advantage, and this puts Sam Hartman firmly in the Heisman conversation. Ole Miss against Alabama, another top 25 SEC opener. We saw Alabama struggle. We see Ole Miss's power with Judkins. We see them with Jackson Dart. So it's going to be a shootout, and we'll see if Alabama can keep up or if Ole Miss can score on a defense like Alabama. And then Iowa versus Penn State. Iowa can kind of score all of a sudden, kind of surprising. And we'll talk about them in our week 3 picks. But who knows, right? Traveling to Penn State. Penn State, always a raucous crowd. Penn State looking to put themselves into a playoff picture conversation. So that's exciting to see. And then, of course, I have to add Texas. Texas gets their first Big 12 road test. They just announced that it's going to be in at nighttime. I think at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock kickoff at Baylor, Central Time. So it's going to be a night game that is going to be rocking. We saw that their environment can be a little bit testy against Utah. I still think Texas pulls away with the victory there, but it's always going to be exciting to see Big 12 games. We know that they're in for points, and we always know that everybody comes out against Texas, right? Always a target on our backs. Now, losers of week 1 or week. Oh, I apologize here, guys. Week 2. And then we'll put this 9-14. Losers of week 2. So Big 12 again, you guys are on my losers of week 1. You're back on my losers of week 2. Again, for your top teams, TCU, I think still very overrated. Baylor, overrated, still missing their quarterback, losing to a team that also didn't have their quarterback, that also came out sloppy, that wasn't physical like they normally are, and you still couldn't take advantage at home. In a morning game where you feel like you might be able to catch that upset where most upsets usually happen, catching them off guard and starting the day. A Pacific team coming to the Central Time zone. There was a lot of things working in your favor. You couldn't take advantage and you lose and you don't even cover. And then Texas Tech, same thing there. Texas Tech, you had a night game at home. Everybody talks about your stadium at home. At nighttime, crazy things happen on a Saturday at Texas Tech. The only crazy thing happened was no, nothing. Same old thing. You guys lose. And you guys keep insisting that the Big 12 runs to you somehow, some way. But I don't see it whatsoever. They lose to Oregon and they lose in epic fashion by being a bad beat to somebody that did bet on Texas Tech to cover the spread. They blow their spread by throwing a late turnover for a pick 6, and Oregon ends up covering. So Big 12, yikes. Like, other than Texas OU, remember the teams that you guys have been hating on, the teams that you guys are wishing good luck, that you're going to be better off without them, that you guys have been carrying us somehow, some way. Yeah, you have nobody else at this point in time, so I suggest you find somebody. Maybe BYU, they're 2-0. Alabama Dynasty, you guys are a loser of the week. I'm not saying it's completely over, but man, it's been a long time that you see them get dominated in that way. And I'm not saying just because it's Texas. They were dominating every facet of the game, from special teams to defensive line to offensive line, rushing, or they maybe pulled even at rushing. They did have a couple drives that they just ran the ball. But overall, the weapons on the outside, the deep pass, it was awesome to see. And even at times coaching, there was a lot of mistakes. There was a lot of flag penalties on Alabama. And you, at the end of the day, that I think that's what we've always said. That is on coaching. That's a reflection of coaching. So yeah, Texas takes down Alabama Dynasty possibly. It is into question, and that's why I put Alabama as the loser of the week. Michigan State, yes, they win. Yes, they've been relatively looking good. I'm still not sold on their offense. At the end of the day, you can't get over what's going on with their head coach and all of that issues. I'm not going to get into it much, but you know that there's some sort of scandal going on, that he's been dismissed for the team temporarily. I want to say, I'm not sure if it's turned permanently. I don't think it has, but right now he's temporarily away from the team. It's hit that locker room hard from what I've been reading on reports. And now they're playing Washington in week 3. That's just tough for Michigan State and those players and that coaching staff. So loser of the week, Michigan State. And then Texas A&M losing to Miami as a top 25 team. So now you're saying the U is back. Your coach is just absolutely abysmal. And then on top of that, it's another loss. And then what do we say in week 1? If you have to be an Aggie, what do you have to do? You have to get arrested. And yet another arrest for an Aggie for driving recklessly. It's week after week, guys. It's an A&M loss followed by an Aggie arrest. And then if they want to change it up a little bit, maybe they do an Aggie arrest and then an Aggie loss. At the end of the day, it doesn't change much, and that's the way Texas A&M operates. I hope you guys can get rid of Jimbo for your guys' own sake. But, guys, if you guys want to buy him out, I completely understand. He's a great coach, so keep believing in him. All right, moving on. Nebraska. Get a quarterback. It's plain and simple. I'm not going to go further into that. Just get a quarterback. It was abysmal to see week 1. It was abysmal to see week 2. Please make a change at quarterback. He is terrible. Tulane, I just feel bad, guys. You're not necessarily a loser playing an SEC school. You're in the top 25. You're not a Power 5 school. You've been there the past couple of years. You had a big bowl game win last year against USC. But, man, if Pratt would have played, I just think you guys cover. I think you guys win that game. at the end, Ole Miss pulls away and makes it look like a game that wasn't relatively close. It was. It was a great game to watch. And at the end, those turnovers just piled up, and then the offense of Ole Miss was just too much to handle for the defense. And Tulane just looks like they tired out. But man, I wish you guys had Pratt, and you guys would have definitely pulled off that top 25 victory. So more like prayers and best wishes to you guys. Wisconsin, you guys are just not them. We know that year in and year out, you guys are always in the top 25. There's always one person that's like, hey, keep a lookout for Wisconsin. They have some physicality to them. They have a running game to them. They can play defense. They play in the Big Ten. And year after year, there's that disappointing loss that you're like, yep, never again. And that was this week against Washington State. Flex it out, throw it out there, air it out type of school that you think maybe a Big Ten school might be able to take advantage of and just stop it down their throats. Nope. You go down in an upset. Don't cover. Don't win money line. Wisconsin, you're just not them. And it's the same old Wisconsin that we know. Other loser of the week, that NC State score that I was talking about, guys. I think a lightning strike hit like miles down the road, and then like simultaneously the scoreboard goes out. It was like an hour and a half delay, and just weather delays in general. I think there was like 4 different games that were in like multiple hour delays. I want to say Purdue was like almost 5 hours. So loser of the week, weather delays. Please take a rest in week 3. Please take a rest in week 4. Definitely don't want to be waiting around to see a game in that 10 o'clock hour. And then UTEP, you guys just suck. Never betting on you guys again. Losing to a team that is just in as much disarray as what we talked about with Michigan State. Yeah, you guys suck. You guys were, I don't even know what's that, 3-point favorites. I don't even know. And then just go and get stomped on. Absolutely stomped on. Your quarterback has more completions to the opposing team, it seemed like. Yeah, just absolutely stomped on. Probably worse than the Giants looked against the Cowboys on Sunday night. So UTEP, never betting you guys again. Best of luck. Hopefully one day you guys relive your glory road days in a football manner. And then loser of the week, we talked about this. Week 4 is something to look forward to. Week 3 is a doozy. It is something that I'm not looking forward to. There's very little games I'm looking forward to. Probably just going to be the Texas and Wyoming game that I really key on because I'm a Texas fan. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of stat padding, a lot of big spreads. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully there is one exciting game, some upset alerts that we get, but I'm not foreseeing much, to be completely honest. And then after week 2, this is my update, guys, in terms of Heisman. Caleb Williams is still at the top. Quinn Ewers played himself fully into that Heisman conversation. Man, those deep balls were beautiful. They were touching the sky, coming back down with water all over them from touching those clouds. It was beautiful. And Sam Hartman still playing solid ball. So those are my 3 top Heisman picks at the moment. Playoff update. Texas is firmly in that playoff update, guys. Number 4 seed. I agree with the AP polls there. Florida State, Michigan, Georgia, and then on the outside looking in, I think personally it's USC, Oregon, Notre Dame, Penn State. And in that order, I do think Texas jumps all of them. Why? Because the Rice win does look a little bit better with them beating now Houston. And then, of course, you beat a number 3 team, so go ahead and take their slot. But I think Florida State has looked better. They have that resume against Clemson. So Florida State claims that number 3, Texas claims number 4, but we are firmly in that playoff conversation. So that is our week 2 recap, guys. That is our week 2 winners and losers. Go ahead and drop them in the comments if I missed anybody in terms of winners, if I missed anybody in terms of losers. If you want to just go ahead and talk about the Aggie weekly tradition of a weekly loss and a weekly arrest, just give me all of your guys' bad beats. Whatever you guys want to do, feel free to drop it in the chat, guys. Always happy to read them, always happy to respond and talk about college football and talk about sports. But with that being said, guys, now the moment that we've all been waiting for. College football week 3 is upon us, guys. So with that being said, let me go ahead and pull it up here. All right, so this is going to be our week 3 picks. So we're still going to do 5 games a week. Sometimes it's a lot harder to pick 5 games than what is in other weeks. Last week I felt really confident. This week I don't feel confident about any of these. So please be wary, guys. Warning you right now, be very wary about week 3. Huge spreads, crazy overs and unders, stuff that leaves you very wary of what you're doing. I'm probably going to lay low on week 3 picks and probably focus more on UFC. It's UFC's Noche de something. But for Mexican Independence Day, 16 de Septiembre. So I'll probably play more UFC this weekend and NFL rather than college football. So just be wary of that, guys. But at the end of the day, these are probably the best 5 picks that I feel more comfortable with. And then you see some other picks on the Horns 2020 podcast. They're not recording this week, but still go check them out. They'll still post their picks on Instagram and on Twitter. So go check out our picks from my boy AJ, Dom, and Ben. All right, guys, with that being said, so our first game, I have Iowa State -3 at Ohio. It's a Power 5 team, a Big 12 team. Again, Big 12 just needs some sort of team to step up. Why not Iowa State? Iowa State's always one of those tricky teams to get over with. Good culture, except last year. But they have some good culture. They always fight hard. I do think they can go ahead and beat Ohio, to be completely honest. And I do think a field goal margin is reasonable enough. So give me Iowa State. And I know there's, I think, like 80% of the public on Iowa State. So it is a pretty good bet, in my opinion. Another Big 12 team, a team that's actually looked pretty impressive, guys. Kansas at Nevada. I don't know why Kansas is going to Nevada, to be completely honest with you. But they are. Nonetheless, Nevada was ranked second to last team in FBS, guys. For context, there's 100 plus teams in FBS. Nevada's the second to last team. Kansas put an absolute whooping on Illinois last week. Also on a Thursday night, I want to say. Kansas is just a much better team. I easily think they hit 28, to be honest. I think they might even hit it in the first half, to be completely honest with you guys. So give me Kansas -27.5 at Nevada. I do think they cover this. I do think it's a blowout, and Nevada doesn't stand a chance. Our third game, Western Michigan at Iowa. We talked about Iowa, and they have been scoring. It's not like last year where they were relying on like punt returns or a pick six or a fumble on the 2 or a safety to win games. They are scoring. They did get the Michigan transfer this year. His name's not coming to me, so I apologize, and I don't want to mess it up. But I know they have that Michigan transfer. At the end of the day, their offense is still not to be trusted. But it's also Western Michigan's offense against a defense like Iowa is also not to be trusted. I do think it's going to be a very low scoring game. I was between the over and under here, but I do think Western Michigan will be able to put up at least 10 points. I don't foresee Iowa putting up 30 points. I don't foresee them, if Western Michigan puts up 40, to put up, or Western Michigan puts up 10 to be able to put up 40. That's just not Iowa's repertoire, and that's just not something they're going to be able to do, to be completely honest. So unless we get 5 pick sixes from Western Michigan, I think Iowa does not cover 28.5, and Western Michigan plus 28.5 is my pick. Now moving on to Florida State at Boston College. This is a neutral site, so it's not at Boston College. So there's not complete and total home field advantage. That's why I was actually leaning to Florida State to cover. At the end of the day, I do think Florida State's going to be able to put up points and that they might be able to cover this total on their own, to be completely honest with you. So why bet them with a huge spread? Instead, let's just bet the total points, just root for points. If they put up 48 on their own, by all means, I'm happy. They could be 48-0. But I do think Boston College puts up at least 10 to 14 points, and that just leaves us with Florida State needing to get 30-plus points. At the end of the day, I do think that's very feasible. Travis has looked awesome. They're a number 3 seed, firmly in that number 3 seed. They're something to be reckoning with in terms of physicality, in terms of speed on the offense and defensive end. So give me Florida State. Honestly, maybe sprinkle a little bit on their cover, but I'm taking them over 48 points because I do think they get pretty close to that total in general. And I do think Boston College can score, whether it's early or it's late. And then lastly, Alabama versus UCF. And I think this might be a shocker to most of you guys, under 61 points. I know what you guys are thinking, like Alabama's going to come out and they're just going to absolutely stomp USF. I completely agree. I do think this is not going to be a competition. However, I don't foresee Alabama putting up 50-something points. I do think they're going to be able to stop USF. I do think, because it wasn't just Alabama's offense that was kind of stopped. It was also Alabama's defense that was there was holes in their game. And I would hate to be a part of that Alabama team this week in practice with Nick Saban. At the end of the day, guys, I do think the defense absolutely steps up, and that's what causes this point total not to hit. I don't foresee Alabama scoring 50-something points, and we only need 10 from USF. I see Alabama scoring maybe 35 to 40 and still relying on 20-plus points from USF, and I don't think USF hits that. I do think it's going to be a domination game from the Alabama defense. They needed a wake-up call. They got it from Texas. They were embarrassed by those deep balls. I don't see USF beating them on trick plays. I don't see them running it down Alabama's throat. So Alabama comes out strong on defense, and that's what causes the under 61 points. And notoriously, actually, and I had read a stat earlier, Nick Saban's teams are actually notorious for hitting the under coming off a loss in the previous week. So that's just, again, reaffirming my statement that I think he goes really hard on defense. He's a defensive-minded coach. He's probably been working and grinding those defensive players all week, and I'm going to go ahead and take them to win this game. All right, guys, and that's a terrible touchdown. Navy 75-yard touchdown against Memphis. We have Memphis -8. I hope Memphis's defense gets it together because there's no way Navy should be scoring on them. But anyways, moving on. So those are our 5 picks. Again, be very wary, guys. I was very back and forth on all these picks, back and forth on the entire week 5 slate. It's tough to find any value out there this week. So best of luck. But again, I'm probably playing more NFL and UFC. Now let's update on those beginning Power 5 conference winners, as well as beginning of the year favorite Heisman, beginning of the year favorite season totals, and beginning of the year playoff prediction. All right, guys. So update on Clemson. They still haven't played a conference, or they've only played one conference game, that opener against Duke. They did win last week, but it's not towards their conference record. That's why it's still at 0-1. They did look a little bit better last week. I still don't trust them. I still think they're a mess, and when it comes to high-level competition, they won't hold up on the offensive end or defensive end for that matter. LSU hasn't played a conference game. They did bounce back with a huge victory. I think that's just the LSU mantra. They'll play good against all the mediocre teams. They'll play good against the middle tier teams in the SEC, and then they'll fall apart when the lights are shining brightest. And that's what I'm guaranteeing again for LSU, unfortunately. I was hoping that wouldn't be the case this year, but I think that's going to be the case once again. Texas, again, hasn't played a Big 12 game yet, but a huge victory this past week against Alabama, setting us up very nicely against Wyoming this week, and then into Big 12 play against Baylor in week 4. Pac-12, Oregon still hasn't played a Pac-12 game. That's why it's still 0-0, but a huge road victory where a lot of people were picking the upset late. That money line shifted quite drastically to Texas Tech. They answered the bell. They covered the spread. So shout out to Oregon. I do think they're going to be a heavy competitor in that Pac-12. And it's a big race now, guys. It's going to be Colorado. There's going to be USC. There's going to be Utah. There's going to be Oregon. Oregon State looks awesome. So it's going to be an awesome race, awesome games to see in the Big 12. Big 10, Michigan is still dominating without Harbaugh. I think he returns in week 4 for Big 10 play. They haven't even sweated in their first 2 games. I don't think they sweat in week 3, but they haven't played any conference games. That's why it's still 0-0. Jumping into our favorite Heisman picks, remember, this was from the beginning of the year, guys. It's not something that these are my top 2 Heisman picks as of right now, right? But these were my futures at the beginning of the year. Caleb Williams, he was at 450. He's still been putting up godly numbers. Now he's at plus 350. So that is the update there. His numbers have dropped by 100. Sam Hartman took a huge jump this week, and I was honestly surprised to see this type of jump, but I saw him at plus 900 on some sites. And Dave Portnoy, founder of Barstool, CEO of Barstool, he put in his future on Sam Hartman, and I was happy to see that, and maybe that's what drove down the money a little bit. Who knows? But at the end of the day, Sam Hartman jumping to plus 900, and then again, what we talked about, Ohio State and Notre Dame in week 4, that's going to be a big coming out party for Sam Hartman, I believe, and putting him firmly in that Heisman conversation if he plays well. Jumping into beginning of the year favorite season totals, we have Texas at over 9.5 wins. Now they're 2-0. We did talk about Alabama maybe potentially being one of their losses, so that gives us another type of gap in the schedule to go ahead and maybe slip up a little bit. But we have Texas over 9.5. Now they are now 2-0. Stanford over 2.5 wins. I told you guys that second win was not going to come against USC. They weren't even close from the get-go, and that's just the way that dice rolls. They are now 1-1, but they have Sacramento State, which I do think is a must-win to try to hit this win total. But yes, they have Sacramento State this week, so hopefully get their second win. California loses in a tight one against Auburn. That was one of the games on Pac-12, late Pac-12 action, and it was 14-10, I think, Auburn. Auburn comes back at the end to win that game. It was an awesome game to see. Defensive battle, struggle, but California drops to 1-1, and that helps our unders total that we had. And then Mississippi State, they're actually looking pretty good. They have a matchup in week 4 against LSU, so I'm excited to see that one. I still don't think they are going to be competitive in the SEC, so we'll see how it goes. And hopefully that's the case. But they are under 6.5. We have them at 2-0 now. And then beginning of the year playoff predictions. Again, we had Georgia, we had Michigan, we had Texas, and LSU. Of course, LSU out of those 4 is the one that's looking the worst. Texas firmly put themselves in that conversation this week. And like what we talked about in our winners and losers, I have Georgia, Michigan, Texas, and Florida State in my top 4 right now. And then on the outside looking in at the beginning of the year, I said Clemson and Oregon. Clemson looks like absolute garbage. I don't think they'll even be in the top 10 by the end of the year. And then Oregon has looked phenomenal. They, again, answered that road test quite nicely at Texas Tech and covered. So Oregon is still there on the outside looking in, and we have hope for them as well. But yeah, the three out of the six, or yeah, three out of the six, or two out of the six teams, I apologize. Two out of the six teams are not looking good, which is LSU and Clemson. Again, those were futures from the beginning of the year. With that being said, guys, that concludes our week 3 picks and our updates on futures. Go check out today's picks. It's for NFL as well as college football, and that college football game is underway right now. I told you guys I have Memphis -8, so we'll see how that goes. It's not starting off very well. But other than that, guys, I hope you guys enjoy week 3. Check the YouTube later on in the week, guys. I'm going to go ahead and have the UFC fight card picked up. So I'll go ahead and break that one down. And then, of course, I'm still going to be posting my daily picks on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then, of course, we'll recap this. And I'll try to recap it earlier in the week, so it's not on the same PowerPoint slide. It's not on the same post on Instagram and Twitter. It's broken up. Easier to see, easier to follow. So I'll try to recap it on Monday or Tuesday this time around, guys. All right? But thank you guys for bearing with me. Thank you guys for the support. Share with your guys' friends. Share with your guys' family. I hope you guys have a good week 3 of college football, good week 2 of NFL, and some good UFC fights on Saturday, guys. Enjoy it. Have a good one. Be safe. And hook 'em horns, as always.